Hi, welcome. My name is Tim Weigand for the Avalon Foundation in the studios of MCTV in the basement of the Avalon Theater. We are here today to talk about another new season. Yeah, it's a new year, which means Tred Avon Players in Oxford has a new theater season of usually 4 plays coming up for the 2011 season. I'm here today with David Foster and Patrick Fee talking about their new play that is opening next weekend, the second weekend in February, called Room Service. Thanks for coming in, guys.
Yeah, it's great to be
Glad
here.
to be here.
So I feel like I'm going to learn a little bit today. I know nothing about Room Service at all. I don't know who wrote it. I don't know anything about it. So let me know and the audience know what the play's about and how it came about, Dave.
Well, Room Service is a Depression era play about a Broadway producer who's totally out of money, doesn't have a dime. He's looking for a backer for a new production, a play that he thinks is going to make his career and all of his cast, including his girlfriend. And he's hunting around for a backer. Where to live? His brother-in-law is the manager of a hotel, one of these faded glory hotels around Times Square in New York. And he's moved his entire cast, 22 people, and his helpers and everybody else into the hotel. They're living on room service, hence the name of the play. The show opened in 1937, and it was the longest-running legitimate play at that time, a wonderful laugh-out-loud hit. I first became attracted to the play in 1943 when I actually played in it when I was in high school. And I've been wondering all these years, you know, was that as funny as I thought it was back in 1943? And now with the help of wonderful actors like Patrick Fee and Maggie Gary that you're going to meet in just a few minutes, and a whole host of some of the best comedic actors that we've got at the Tred Avon Players, you're in for a real treat starting February 11th.
And David, you're the director, right?
I'm the director of this show.
And Pat, you do a lot of theater in the area. I think a lot of people, anybody who's watching, who's been to theater, has probably seen you around. If you haven't, Pat, you're working on a play year-round, almost. Is that correct?
Yes, it is my avocation. At a certain point, I realized that I wanted to eat a little bit more, so I had to stop making it my vocation. But I do engineering during the day, and in the evenings can be found down with the Tred Avon Players in Oxford or up at Churchill Theater. Did a little bit of work with the Prince up in Chestertown, even Art House Live here. And of course, the Peak Players, where I originally started about, 5.5 years ago doing theater here. I've done about 30 shows now.
And I should explain that Patrick plays Gordon Miller, the producer of Godspeed, the play that's being produced in Room Service. And he's the conniving kind of type that tries to con everybody to get a spare meal and get a few $1,000s to get this show up and running. He will do anything to get the show up. And Patrick, with his wonderful comedic sense, plays that role to a T.
It's a lot of fun. It's a large part. We've talked about this. Yeah. And what's fun is that it's one of those shows where there isn't. You know, a lot of times you'll have even in comedies there's long expositions where someone has to talk for a while. There's a lot happening here. There's a lot of movement. There's almost all the characters on stage are bouncing around quite a bit. So it's fun. And it's a lighthearted look at extreme poverty, and it's a fun way to go.
Well, Pat, just as an aside, having done 30 plays, as you said, and Dave, I know you've probably done 50 plays.
Easily.
At least.
Pat, how do you, as the working actor right now, how do you differentiate when you do these characters? What's just for somebody who may be watching, we always talk a little bit about theater, and we've talked about memorizing lines before, how much fun it is, that sort of thing, what sort of community and friendships you build. But on the technical side of it, how do you differentiate in your characters?
Well, on stage, it's interesting you mentioned that because Maggie and I, who you'll meet in a bit, were talking about this briefly last night. A lot of times you have to find something inside yourself in each one of those characters. If you don't, and everyone has seen someone on stage who's just kind of trying to get the laugh and not trying to find something inside them. It has to be a real character. I mean, you can be all over the top with some of the delivery and some of the lines and such, but if you find a place inside yourself. So each character I do, I think, is different. This one, I think David quite a bit, because this character offers an awful lot of kind of an ebullient character where he can be all over the place, as opposed to Lenny in Of Mice and Men, who is an exact polar opposite and being very reserved. But whatever the part is, you have to find a place inside yourself, and you have to be comfortable exposing a part. The first time I got back into theater, I was still in school. I was aware that I was a little heavier than some of the other people with me. I went back to school late, so I had a little less hair than some of them. I'm a little older than them. I was very aware of that. So I wound up in 1940s Radio Hour playing a part where I had to pretend I was fatter, stick my stomach out. They shaved the top of my head so I looked like I was going bald, and I had the young ingenue girl as my girlfriend, and they kept making jokes about the difference in ages. So I basically put all of my insecurities right out there, and I think if you're willing to do that, that's what makes each part different, because every character is different. You have to sit around and work with the other actors that you're working with. They'll all bring something to it. I've talked with all the characters in this particular production. What do you think about your character? Maggie gave me some insight into her character I didn't even think about before. And each of those little insights, as well as what's inside yourself, helps you bring something new to each character.
And Dave, how is this directing? How long have you been working on this?
Oh, I started work on the show basically last June and began to visualize the thing. It's an ensemble show. It's a large cast, 14 people on stage. And a lot of times they're all on stage at one time in these wonderful madcap situations with the eating room service, pretending a guy is sick, somebody getting thrown into the bathroom. You know, action is happening all the time. And the biggest problem for a director is to get all of that choreographed so that each of these wonderful comedic parts has a chance to do their thing in the midst of this wonderful ensemble situation. You know, it sounds complicated, and comedy is complicated.
Yeah, it is.
And this is comedy. There is no redeeming social importance to this show. It's a show to come to and laugh, and that's what.
And I think everybody, regardless of where you live, anywhere right now, could use a little bit of laughter. It's always good to start out the new year like that. You know, I think
absolutely. And February 11th, that's when we open. And as you well know, Tim. We have free champagne reception on opening night. It's a great Valentine's Day treat, fellas. Come on down, see the show, give your girlfriend a glass or two of champagne, have some nice treats, and a few laughs, and what could be better?
Also, too, for those who are a bit nostalgic, this will be TAP's last play in the community center as it sits right now. You guys are undergoing a major renovation that is due in part to the Tred Avon Players and those who support the community center, I would imagine.
Absolutely.
And it's going to look really, I've seen the plans, it looks beautiful. So
absolutely.
Congratulations, you guys.
After 29 years, we're going to have a new theater there in Oxford in our 30th season next year. You're going to be having a wonderful theatrical experience, and those of us who perform and direct there will also have the treat of having a state-of-the-art theater.
Yeah, it's state-of-the-art, right?
But let me say that for the remaining 3 shows of this year, we are grateful to the Historical Society here in Easton. We're going to be able to use their theater.
TAP is moving to Easton for
three shows here in 2011.
Starting with the last weekend of April, and we'll have a
show that Pat
will be directing.
Social Security. It's interesting too because I don't think people realize who might watch a show the wide variety of theater we all have very close to us, and art in general. But a number of the locations, like in Churchill, they have they own the theater, and it's all part and parcel. What's an interesting collaboration in Oxford is you have the Oxford Community Center and you have the Tred Avon Players, and we work together, and that's what makes that very special, and a special arrangement where that area, it's not just going to be a great theater next year, but all the other things, the summer camps they do, all the other things that is for the community will all be available there.
Was lucky enough to see the plans, and it is definitely going to be a very pretty structure inside. For those of you looking for a good laugh, we're going to take a quick break right here, but the Marx Brothers and Lucille Ball picked this play up so as far as laughs, I think those are pretty good people to sort of base your comedy by. This is room service. It's being done by the Tred Avon Players at the Oxford Community Center, February 11th, 12th, 18th, 19th, 25th, and 26th. And we'll put those dates on the screen for you below. Also the 13th, 20th, and 27th. So we'll be right back. We're going to talk with Maggie. Dave, thanks for coming by. Pat, I think one of you guys is sticking around. We'll be right back in just a minute.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks.
China Buffet has reopened with a new decor and a new menu. After extensive renovations, we can now offer our diners a complete Asian experience. From made-to-order hibachi, freshly rolled sushi, and our traditional Chinese cuisine, we've got something for everyone. Planning a party? Our private dining room is great for all occasions. China Buffet, open 7 days a week for lunch and dinner. Located next to Walmart, Easton, Maryland.
Hi, we're back. We are talking with Patrick Fee, and Maggie Gary has joined us talking about Taps Play Room Service that is coming up February 11th. That's the opening weekend. We'll give you the rest of the dates. You'll see them across the bottom of the screen for the run. Room Service is a huge comedy from what I'm hearing. So, Maggie, thanks for stopping by. Now, I understand from David that, and I don't want to get too much into this, but it's kind of interesting. You and also Lynn Sanchez, who is not here, are taking on parts that were written as men in the play originally.
That's right. This is a very interesting thing, and David is brilliant at reconstructing some of these parts suitable for women, because we are looking at a play that was written for the excuse me, was written for the audiences of the 30s, and it was a totally different social situation. So he's updating it somewhat and giving women a showcase, which is really wonderful. And this character of mine is very interesting because she's like a private secretary to this woman. This woman's like a private secretary to
Patrick's character?
No, not to the backer. The wealthy backer.
The unseen wealthy backer.
The unseen wealthy backer. Now, it might seem a little illogical that this woman would be a professional person in the 30s, but it's not illogical that she would be a secretary. And as I was telling Patrick, and this is where imagination comes in, when you're trying to dig into your inner thoughts about who this person is. I imagine that she is trying to get her daughter on the stage, and she's gotten this very wealthy investor to put money in a play to get her daughter on the stage and in Hollywood. So she's desperate. She is very desperate, but very controlled, very much a lady, and very polite, and she walks on. She literally takes command of these gentlemen for a few moments, but then when it all falls apart, we see what happens with her desperation, because she just melts down.
Now, did David change any of the text for you?
A little bit. We had to change the name, of course, because it was
Simon to Simone.
Simon became Simone. And Lynn Sanchez is doing a wonderful job as a very, very sharp edge hotel manager. But he changed the text just enough so you could believe that she was cracking the glass ceiling.
Well, I asked because he's done some work for us with text before. I love the way he sort of figures things out, and he always does a really nice job with that kind of stuff.
He's just done a wonderful, seamless job of putting the new text in here and there to make it believable and acceptable.
While still keeping the voice of the original author.
Yes.
Now, Patrick, have you worked with Maggie before?
No, this is the first time Maggie and I are getting to work together, and it's a lot of fun.
It has been.
It's an interesting mix of people on stage, with a couple people that are brand new to being on the theater or in the theater, and also some that people have been there, like we're talking about Lynn, like Joe Tyler, that have been in John Swan have been in a lot of different shows,
Right.
and so the ensemble is fun because everybody there, you can tell, has a good sense of humor and has a decent sense of timing, and you know that's the hardest part in a comedy is you can say the same, two people can say the same line exactly and one will fall flat because you know, it's all that pause or that second to wait to get it, or a couple of those kind of lines, and those are in there quite a bit. There are actually two major scenes where Simone and I interact, and of course, you know, basically Miller will take money from anyone, anyhow, any way, and he just knows that as soon as she starts talking about some little woman who would like to have a small part in a play, he sees what's going on here. He'll do a quick rewrite. He'll get $50,000, and he'll be able to finish the play that he's working on. So the entire show is plate spinning for Gordon Miller. I'm just trying to keep them all going, and it's interesting. You know, we talked about where you get your character, and I've got some of that going on in my life right now too. And so the opportunity to actually take that and channel it through a character, and trying to keep all the plates spinning, keep a lot of people happy, people that can't even stand to be in the same room together. But if I keep them on either side and I talk to them back and forth like this, we can actually get somewhere. And I think the audience will relate to that and will appreciate the humor.
Okay, great. Now, and real quick before we get to the dates again and wrap this up, Maggie, how did you get involved with TAP?
Well, this is very interesting. A year ago, I was sitting in church, and Fiona said, you know, we need someone for a small part. Maggie, would you be available to come and read for a small part? Well, I hadn't done anything since really the 80s. I did Reader's Theater, and I loved doing that, and I worked with David a little bit then. And I said, you know, I think I might enjoy that. Is it a big, no, it's a small part. Just come and read, and we'll try it. I loved it. Then at that point, I was addicted, you know. I read for the next play that Pat Sheehy directed, Leading Ladies, and I played Florence in that. And oh, that was a tour de force. I just had a grand time. And so when this came along, I said, oh, there's a part for an older lady. And you know, that's hard to do, to find parts for older people, and particularly women.
We've been hearing about it for the last 100 years.
And these guys do, these people down at Tred Avon Players, they do a wonderful job of trying to bring a great diversity of people, and including a lot of women. And I really want to stress the small parts in this play. They have some wonderful characters. We have one, Art Wolf, who's going to open the show, and he plays a waiter. The guy is spectacular. The timing, his voice, and when he opened up, I sat back. I said, "Oh my goodness!"
Quite a voice. He definitely has quite a voice.
That's the type. That's the depth they've got in this cast. It is just delightful.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say one thing though that I always want to make sure that I mention, because I do some work on both sides, you know, on the boards, you know, and also behind, is that there's always the people we have doing costumes. Okay, the costumes are impeccable here. The people are going to do sounds all the way, you know, so everything from the lights to the appropriate flush of a toilet at the right place is all very important. And so a lot of times people talk to me. I got a chance to talk on the radio a while back about being involved with theater, and we're the visible part of it. But there are so many people backstage. Someone sent me an email today asking me, she always wanted to direct, and she wants to know where she could be a stage manager, which is kind of like the manager of the play, keeping everything together. There are a lot of opportunities for people who maybe they get nervous, or maybe they can't memorize lines, but really want to be involved with theater and get the camaraderie and really watch the people laugh from behind the stage. So I always think, I always want to make sure that we mention the opportunities there are for people who just want to do something and forget about their troubles for a little bit, maybe a couple hours, 3 times a week, and get involved.
Yeah, and that's Maggie. I'd seen you, I think, a little bit. I didn't know how much you had acted, so I was kind of hitting. If you're interested in acting, Tred Avon Players has been around now probably 25 or 26 years. It's a great place to try and do that. Yes. Speaking of 25 or 26 years, they haven't raised their prices for any of their performances in the last 6 years. Tickets are $15. They for room service coming up. They have a Thrifty Thursday. It's February 17th at 7 p.m. It's tickets 2 for 1 or $10 for singles. And the performances for this. Who is the author of this, by the way? Does anybody know who the author is?
There are two.
There's 2 of them. This is room service. As I said before, the Marx Brothers and Lucille Ball took it over. It's running February 11th, 12th, 18th, 19th, 25th, and 26th. I believe those are probably Fridays and Saturdays.
Yeah, it starts next Friday, and it'll run 3 weekends. The easy way to do it is 3 weekends.
3 weekends.
Starting the 11th.
The Fridays and Saturdays are at 8 p.m. and the Sundays are at 2 p.m. for the matinees.
And a Thrifty Thursday.
Thrifty Thursday is the 17th.
Yeah, 17th. And one thing that you didn't mention, Tim, is students are free on a Thrifty Thursday.
Students are free on the Thrifty Thursday.
They do realize we're all well aware of how tight things are when people are trying to go through school, and we want to make sure that they get a chance to see some live theater. That's
right, and it's a great laugh. And this is the first play. Once again, it's the first play for TAP for the 2011 season. It also is the last play that will be done in the community center as we all know it, with great renovations and exciting renovations coming up for TAP starting in 2012. For this year, Pat, we'll see you on stage then in a couple weeks. We'll also see you directing in April at the Historical Society. I want to thank David for coming by. Thank you, Maggie, for coming in and chatting about it. Break a leg, as we say. And if you're looking for something to do, TAP has always a fine performance down there in Oxford coming up this February. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.